The Ghost in the Dark. The Galactic Coalition had ruled the spiral arm for 3 centuries, bringing 16 sentient species under its governance and technological standards. Humans, the newest addition, had been granted limited membership only 35 years ago, barely a blink in cosmic time. They were tolerated rather than respected, their colonies restricted to a handful of systems near the edge of Coalition space. Captain Xerax Vorex stood on the command deck of the Indomitable Crest, the Coalition's most advanced dreadnought, his 4 arms clasped behind his back as he stared at the holographic display. The 12-kilometer vessel represented the pinnacle of Mithridian engineering, a monument to the Coalition's technological supremacy. Yet something troubled the captain's usually impassive features, causing the sensitive gill-like structures on his neck to flush a deeper shade of blue. "You seem disturbed, Captain," remarked Commander Essex, his second-in-command, her insectoid mandibles clicking softly as she approached. "Are the supply route reports concerning you?" Vorex nodded slowly, 6 eyes narrowing as he manipulated the display with a casual gesture. 23 supply vessels vanished in this sector over the past 3 lunar cycles. The pattern suggests more than random pirate activity. Near human space, Essex observed, her compound eyes reflecting the glowing data points. "Indeed," Vorex responded, "and yet Coalition intelligence dismisses any connection." He brought up another display, grainy footage from a damaged probe, showing a dark silhouette against the backdrop of stars. The shape was sleek and predatory, unlike the bulky utilitarian designs favored by human engineers. "The humans call it the Phantom," he said quietly. "Coalition High Command calls it a myth." Commander Essex's antennae twitched skeptically. Humans lack the technological capability to produce stealth technology advanced enough to evade our detection networks. The Coalition Science Directorate has been quite clear on this assessment. Vorex closed the display with a swift gesture, then explained those. He pointed toward another data set, energy readings that defied conventional analysis. "These patterns match no known propulsion system in our database. Sensor malfunctions," Essex suggested, "or perhaps natural phenomena we haven't cataloged." Lieutenant Drezik, the tactical officer, joined the conversation with characteristic bluntness. His species, the Vulgar, were known for their direct approach. "Maybe it's crude by the vengeful spirits of humans we've displaced." He made a mocking gesture with his clawed hand that sent junior officers into nervous laughter. The Coalition's annexation of 2 outer human colonies 3 standard years ago had been meant as a simple demonstration of power, a reminder of humanity's subordinate position. Instead, it had triggered a series of conflicts that neither side seemed capable of resolving decisively. "Superstitious nonsense," Captain Vorex snapped, silencing the laughter. "There are no ghosts in space, only threats we haven't properly identified." Ensign Taylor, the lone Silurian on the bridge crew, spoke up hesitantly. Her species was newest to the Coalition, admitted just before humans. "Captain, the pattern of disappearances suggests deliberate strategy. Whatever's causing our ships to vanish is moving with purpose." Ensign Taylor has been watching too many human entertainment broadcasts. Lieutenant Drezik sneered. "Next she'll suggest they've developed quantum tunneling or consciousness transfer." Taylor's epidermis flushed with embarrassment, the bioluminescent patterns beneath her translucent skin pulsing rapidly. "Enough," Vorex said firmly. "We have orders to secure this quadrant, not chase phantoms. Set course for Outpost Meridian. We'll resupply before continuing our patrol." As the massive dreadnought altered its trajectory, Ensign Taylor returned to her station, unable to shake the feeling that they were making a catastrophic miscalculation. The humans had been underestimated from the moment they'd been discovered, treated as technological infants despite their remarkably rapid advancement. The Phantom might be dismissed as mythology by her superiors, but myths often conceal deeper truths, and in Taylor's experience, ignoring those truths could prove fatal. 3 rotation cycles later, her fears manifested in the most dramatic fashion possible. Proximity alert. shouted the tactical officer, his voice cracking with alarm. Unknown vessel approaching from Sector 12. Captain Vorex rose from his command chair, spine rigid with surprise. Impossible. Our long-range sensors would have detected any approach. It wasn't there a moment ago, sir, the tactical officer stammered. It simply appeared. The main view screen activated, revealing a sleek, dark shape against the star field. It was approximately one-third the size of their dreadnought, with none of the bulky protrusions typical of Coalition warships. Instead, it appeared almost organic, with a smooth, matte black surface that seemed to absorb rather than reflect light. No visible weapons ports, no engine exhausts, just an elegant predatory silhouette. By the Seven Suns, Lieutenant Drezek whispered, his earlier mockery nowhere to be found. Open a channel, Vorex ordered, his voice steady despite the unprecedented situation. The communications officer worked frantically at her console. No response, sir. They're not acknowledging any frequency. Scan it, Vorex barked. Scans aren't penetrating, sir. It's as if the ship is absorbing our sensor beams. Ensign Taylor watched the vessel with mounting dread. Captain, I believe we've found the Phantom. Vorex shot her a withering look. Don't be absurd. It's clearly some new class of human vessel, but nothing supernatural. He turned to the weapons officer. Target their propulsion systems. Let's give them a proper coalition greeting. Sir, I don't recommend, Taylor began. Was I asking for your recommendation, Ensign? Vorex snapped. Fire warning shots across their bow. Let's see how phantom-like they remain with plasma torpedoes scorching their hull. The weapons officer complied, and seconds later, brilliant streaks of energy lanced out from the dreadnought's forward batteries. Taylor held her breath, watching the torpedoes race toward the mysterious vessel. What happened next defied explanation. Instead of impacting or being evaded, the torpedoes simply vanished as they approached the ship, as if they had entered some kind of void. What in the name of the Seven Suns just happened? Vorex demanded, his composure finally cracking. Before anyone could respond, their ship rocked violently, throwing several crew members from their stations. We're being targeted, the tactical officer cried out. Multiple weapons locks, but I can't identify what kind of weapons they're using. Another impact, harder this time. The lights flickered, and emergency sirens began to wail throughout the massive dreadnought. Return fire. All batteries. Vorex roared. Launch interceptors. The indomitable crest unleashed its full arsenal, a devastating barrage that would have reduced most battle cruisers to drifting debris. But against the Phantom, it might as well have been a gentle breeze for all the effect it had. Their ship shuddered again, and Taylor was thrown against a bulkhead. When she regained her footing, the situation had deteriorated dramatically. Half the command consoles were dark, and the acrid smell of burnt circuitry filled the air. Hull breach on decks 4 through 19. Someone reported. Engineering reports critical damage to the main reactor. Captain Vorex stood amid the chaos, his eyes wide with disbelief. This isn't possible. No human vessel could withstand that barrage, let alone inflict this kind of damage on a dreadnought. Sir, the communications officer called out, we're receiving a transmission from the unknown vessel. The view screen flickered, and for a moment Taylor expected to see a human face, perhaps gloating over their imminent victory. Instead, the screen filled with a simple text message in the common galactic language. CEAC hostilities, or be destroyed. UAV 30 CCONDS, 2 CO Mipuli. They're bluffing, Lieutenant Drezek declared, though his voice lacked conviction. They can't possibly. Another impact cut him off, this one powerful enough to throw even Captain Vorex to the floor. Warning indicators flashed across every operational console. Primary shields failing, the tactical officer reported. Secondary shields at 12% and dropping. Taylor met Vorex's gaze across the smoke-filled bridge. For once, the arrogance had vanished from his eyes, replaced by naked fear. All weapons cease fire, he ordered, his voice barely audible over the alarms. "Signal our surrender." As the communications officer hurried to comply, Taylor turned back to the view screen, studying the mysterious vessel that had single-handedly defeated one of the Coalition's most powerful warships. The Phantom was real, and if this encounter was any indication, the humans possessed technology far beyond what the Coalition had believed possible. The implications were terrifying. "You're absolutely certain of what you saw?" Grand Admiral Thexis Vorn asked, her elongated cranial ridges pulsing with skepticism. Ensign Taylor stood at attention before the Admiral's desk, trying not to show how intimidated she felt. The orbital command station circling Mithridia Prime was the heart of Coalition military operations, and being summoned here after their defeat was an ominous sign. "Yes, Admiral." The vessel appeared without warning, negated our weapons fire, and disabled a dreadnought in less than 5 minutes of engagement. Admiral Vorn leaned back in her chair, her scales shifting to a contemplative gray-green. "And Captain Vorex, where is he now?" "In medical, Admiral. Physical injuries were minimal, but the psychological impact." Taylor trailed off, unsure how to describe Vorex's near-catatonic state after their rescue. "I see." Vorn tapped her long, elegant fingers against the polished surface of her desk. "And you believe this vessel is the same one responsible for our missing supply ships?" "The evidence suggests so, yes." The Admiral studied her for a long moment. "Ensign Taylor, do you know why you're here instead of facing a tribunal for the loss of a dreadnought?" Taylor's throat went dry. "No, Admiral. Because unlike Vorex and most of your superior officers, you've been raising concerns about this Phantom for months. Your reports were dismissed, but you persisted. That shows both insight and courage." Taylor blinked in surprise. "Thank you, Admiral." Vorn activated a holographic display on her desk, showing the limited sensor data they'd managed to gather on the Phantom. "What we're facing may be the greatest threat the Coalition has encountered in generations. If the humans have developed technology this advanced, the war could be over before we have time to adapt." "With respect, Admiral, I don't believe that's their intention." Vorn's head tilted curiously. "Explain." "The Phantom had us completely at its mercy, yet it allowed us to surrender and retreat. It's been targeting supply vessels, not warships or colonies. I believe they're sending a message, not seeking total victory." "A message?" Taylor nodded. "That they can end this war whenever they choose. They're demonstrating capability while showing restraint." The Admiral was silent for a long moment, considering Taylor's words. Finally, she stood, towering over the young ensign with her impressive height. "Ensign Taylor, effective immediately, you're being reassigned to a special intelligence task force. Your sole mission will be to gather every scrap of information about this vessel, its capabilities, weaknesses, origin, everything." "Yes, Admiral." Vorn's expression hardened. "Because if you're wrong about their intentions, if this is merely the first of a new class of human warships preparing for a major offensive, the consequences for our people would be catastrophic." As Taylor left the Admiral's office, her mind raced with possibilities. What was the Phantom really? A technological breakthrough? A single prototype? Or something else entirely? Something that might change the course of the war and perhaps the future of all species in the Coalition. One thing was certain. The myth had become reality, and nothing would be the same again. Revelation and reckoning. The intelligence hub beneath Coalition High Command was a labyrinth of dimly lit corridors and secured rooms where the most sensitive information in 16 star systems was processed and analyzed. It had been Taylor's home for the past 2 weeks as she led the investigation into the Phantom. "Play it again," she told technical specialist Morax, who sat beside her in the cramped viewing room. Morax sighed but complied, rewinding the sensor recording captured during their encounter with the mysterious vessel. "We've watched this 93 times. Taylor," he grumbled, his gelatinous form rippling with irritation. "Nothing's changed." "Something's there," she insisted. We're missing it. The recording showed the Phantom from multiple angles, captured by the Dreadnought's external cameras before most of them were disabled. The vessel moved with impossible grace, seeming to bend the very light around it. "Pause there," Taylor said suddenly, pointing at a barely perceptible distortion around the ship's hull. "Enhance that section." Morax manipulated the controls, zooming in on the area she'd indicated. "It's just sensor interference." "No," Taylor breathed, her bioluminescent patterns pulsing with excitement. "It's a gravitational lens effect. They're not absorbing our weapons fire. They're bending space around their ship." Morax looked skeptical. "That's impossible. The energy requirements would be beyond anything we've achieved." Taylor finished for him. "But what if the humans found a way?" She pulled up the data from the Coalition Science Directorate's assessment of human technological capabilities. "Look here. 3 years ago, they detected unusual energy signatures from the Proxima system, the humans' primary research hub. The Directorate dismissed it as experimental fusion reactor tests." "You think it was related to the Phantom?" Taylor nodded. "And I think we need to reassess everything we thought we knew about human technology." She compiled her findings into a report and sent it directly to Admiral Vorn, bypassing the usual bureaucratic channels. 6 hours later, she was summoned back to the Admiral's office. Vorn wasn't alone. 5 other high-ranking officials surrounded her desk, their expressions ranging from skepticism to outright hostility. "Ensign Taylor," the Admiral began, "your report has caused quite a stir." "I stand by my analysis, Admiral." Director Krell of the Science Directorate, a Vexillian with translucent skin that revealed the complex neural network beneath, stepped forward. "Your conclusions are preposterous. Space warping technology is theoretically possible, but practically unfeasible. The power requirements alone." "With respect, Director," Taylor interrupted, "we've consistently underestimated human ingenuity. Their technological development has outpaced all projections since their discovery. Even if what you suggest is possible," General Korvax of the Strategic Command growled, his razor-sharp teeth glinting, "it would mean the humans possess technology centuries beyond our own. That is unacceptable." "Unacceptable or not," Admiral Vorn said quietly, "we must consider the possibility." She turned to Taylor. "What else have you discovered?" Taylor hesitated, aware that what she was about to say next would be even more controversial. "I believe the Phantom may be only partially human in origin." A stunned silence fell over the room. "Explain," Vorn commanded. "The design principles don't match anything in human engineering archives. And the quantum signature." She brought up another data set. "It contains elements I can't identify, possibly from before humanity achieved spaceflight." Director Krell's internal neural network visibly pulsed with agitation. "You're suggesting they discovered alien technology?" "Or were given it," Taylor said softly. The implications hung heavily in the air. The Coalition's founding principle was technological superiority, the right of the most advanced species to lead the others. If humans had somehow leapfrogged centuries of development. "We need to know more," Admiral Vorn decided. "And there's only one way to get that information." She looked directly at Taylor. "We're sending you to Earth." 3 days later, Taylor found herself aboard a diplomatic vessel approaching the Sol system under a flag of truce. The mission was officially a peace initiative, but her true purpose was to gather intelligence on the Phantom and the technology behind it. Earth's orbital defense grid was formidable, more so than Coalition intelligence had reported. Dozens of stations and smaller vessels tracked their approach, weapon systems visibly ready but not targeting. Their ship was directed to dock at Luna Station, the massive habitat in orbit around Earth's moon. As they approached, Taylor saw the Phantom for the second time, docked in a specially designed berth, repair drones swarming around its sleek hull. The diplomatic contingent was met by a human delegation led by Admiral Helena Chen, a small woman with steel-gray hair and penetrating eyes that seemed to miss nothing. The formalities were brief and tense, with both sides clearly suspicious of the other's motives. When the initial meeting concluded, Admiral Chen approached Taylor directly. "Ensign Taylor, I believe, the one who survived the indomitable Crest encounter." Taylor was startled. "You know who I am." Chen's smile didn't reach her eyes. "We make it our business to know our adversaries, especially the perceptive ones. Walk with me." They moved through the station's corridors, passing humans and the occasional non-human visitor. Taylor noticed how effortlessly they interacted, different from the rigid hierarchies of Coalition space. "You're here about the Phantom," Chen stated matter-of-factly. Taylor tensed. "I'm part of the diplomatic." "Please," Chen interrupted. "Let's not waste time. Your superiors want to know how we developed technology they believed was centuries beyond our reach. Whether we're preparing for war or simply demonstrating strength. Whether there are more ships like the Phantom." Taylor remained silent, unwilling to confirm or deny anything. Chen led her to an observation deck overlooking a massive construction bay. In the center, partially completed, was another vessel with the distinctive lines of the Phantom. "To answer your unasked questions, yes, we're building more. No, we don't want war, but we will defend ourselves with overwhelming force if necessary. And as for how we develop this technology..." Chen paused, studying Taylor's reaction. "That's the interesting part." She activated a display showing star charts and ancient-looking artifacts. 70 years ago, before the Coalition discovered us, we found something buried on Mars. A data repository from a civilization that vanished 500,000 years ago. Taylor's bioluminescent patterns flashed with shock. "The precursors. You found precursor technology." Chen nodded. "We kept it secret, especially after we realized how the Coalition treats lesser species. We knew we'd need leverage if we were ever discovered. The precursors were a semi-mythical species believed to have seeded the galaxy with life before disappearing. Most serious scientists considered them legend rather than fact. The Phantom's gravitic distortion drive was adapted from their designs," Chen continued. "We don't fully understand how it works yet, but we've made it operational. It's not perfect. The power requirements are enormous, and we can only maintain the field for limited periods." "Why are you telling me this?" Taylor asked, bewildered by the human's openness. "Because we're offering the Coalition a choice," Chen replied. "Continue treating us as subordinates to be annexed at will, and face weapons you can't counter. Or recognize us as equals, share in the knowledge we've discovered, and help us understand the legacy the precursors left for all of us." Taylor stared at the partially constructed ship. "My superiors won't easily accept humans as equals." "No," Chen agreed, "but they'll accept reality, especially when the alternative is defeat. The Phantom was a demonstration, Ensign Taylor. We could have destroyed your dreadnought but chose not to. Just as we could have attacked Coalition core worlds, but targeted only supply ships instead. We wanted your attention, not your destruction. The next move is yours," Chen concluded. "Take our offer to your leaders. Tell them what you've seen. Remind them that the precursor knowledge belongs to all sentient species, not just those who currently hold power." 2 weeks later, Taylor stood again before the Coalition High Council, this time presenting not just her findings but humanity's offer. The debate was fierce, with many officials refusing to believe humans could have discovered precursor technology when the Coalition's own archaeological efforts had failed. "This is clearly a deception," Director Krell insisted, "a ploy to force us into treating them as equals when they've yet to prove their worthiness." "With respect," Taylor countered, "I believe they've proven their capability quite effectively by disabling our most advanced dreadnought. Whether we recognize them as equals is irrelevant. Reality has already made that decision for us." In the end, pragmatism prevailed. A research exchange was established, with Coalition scientists invited to study the precursor artifacts alongside their human counterparts. The humans, for their part, agreed to share the technology they'd developed and limit production of Phantom-class vessels. 6 months later, Taylor returned to Earth as part of the first official Coalition scientific delegation. Admiral Chen met her at the docking bay, looking both pleased and amused. "Welcome back, Ambassador Taylor," Chen greeted her, emphasizing the new title. "I understand congratulations are in order for your promotion." Taylor's bioluminescent patterns rippled with modest acknowledgement. "It seems my superiors felt I had a unique perspective on human coalition relations." "Indeed." Chen gestured toward a large view screen showing Earth's orbital shipyards, where vessels of human and coalition design now worked side by side. "And speaking of perspectives, I think you'll find this interesting." The screen shifted to show a vessel under construction, larger than the Phantom, but with the same sleek lines. What distinguished it, however, was the crew. Humans working alongside members of various coalition species. "The Covenant," Chen explained, "first of a new class of joint research vessels, designed to venture beyond coalition space, searching for more precursor sites." Taylor studied the vessel, noting how the design incorporated elements of both human and coalition technology. "Our peoples working together. 6 months ago, I wouldn't have believed it possible." Chen smiled, this time genuinely. "Sometimes it takes a ghost story to make people see reality clearly. The Phantom was the ghost your people needed, a reminder that the universe is larger and more mysterious than any single species can comprehend alone." As they walked toward the research facility housing the precursor artifacts, Taylor reflected on how rapidly everything had changed. A myth had become reality, enemies had become partners, and the future had transformed from a continuation of the past into something entirely new. The Phantom had indeed delivered its message, and both humanity and the Coalition had finally listened.